the EdTech Demonstrator Programme allows any schools, state-funded education settings in England to access free support that can be, bespoke meetings, webinars such as this, coming into schools, putting faces onto screens in staff rooms, whatever it might be that makes things work for you. And we have a website, Digital Learning Cornwall, that you'll be able to find, which is day by day, week by week, getting filled with, we hope, useful material, including our collated computing resources, which we're finding are very popular with schools that are looking for solutions in the computing curriculum area and looking to get on with that in the most meaningful, time efficient way. So I'm very happy to be contacted about that as well. So Google Classroom and key tools. It's worth saying that Google Classroom is a little bit of a backbone of a learning platform. When you look at it, you'll feel like this product is kind of aimed at secondary education, possibly, and certainly some of the terminology used relates to that. And you may find, looking at it, that it doesn't feel the most primary friendly platform, and you'll probably be right to say that. And for some time we've been sort of hoping that Google would pick up the baton and say, hang on, we're going to redesign this with the primary focus in mind. That hasn't happened, and I'm sort of doubtful that it's going to happen for a while. But with certain other tools put in place, you can use this platform successfully in primary schools, particularly at Key Stage 2, I would say, and certainly as a solution for remote learning circumstances, it has found its place, definitely. And the fact that it uses Google logins, which are becoming quite ubiquitous in schools, is a clear advantage, because you can link to all sorts of other websites and web-based programs to use. So we've got a little bit of a rundown, a bit of a structure about why we use Google Classroom. Look at some of the basics with arranging classes and go through some of the settings that you might want to change. And then a look at the basic idea of setting assignments, and I'll also look there at the structure of a class for we think about it in terms of remote learning, but also as a homework platform, perhaps a place where work outside of school can be structured. And then I certainly will point you to some other tools that are worth investigating. There are some brilliant, often free tools out there that really make this style of learning work. And of course, Q&A, I'm very happy to take questions once we've got through this brief presentation. I'm going to come off that slide in a moment. Not the most exciting set of information there, but it gives you, and you'll get these slides, it gives you an indication of how Google Classroom assignments, as it likes to call them, can be set up. And you'll see in those two pictures on the right there, this week beginning structure that we have found quite useful to use during lockdowns to give that timetable of work and learning for children to use. There's no set rules, but that's a suggestion as to how you can structure Google Classroom to make it work for you. I'm going to come back out of here, and I'm going to share over to my web browser where Google Classroom is sitting. Over to here, and I will say at that point I'm sharing over to web-based Google Classroom. I'm actually using Microsoft's browser, Microsoft Edge, to view it. You could be in Chrome, But if you use tablets like iPads, or children are using those at home, then there are apps. There's the Google Classroom app, and there's also a Google Meet app that you might end up using if you were to do any sort of meetings or live events, live meetings, live lessons. So here's a Google Classroom account. It's set up for a school that I have close links with and teaching. I'm going to just show you now. Across our trust, we have a structure where the classes are just set up automatically. It brings in the information from the MIS, children's names, classes, and which teachers and other adults are associated with those classes. So it makes the structure for you, which is great. And if you're going to use this heavily, then that's the type of thing that might be useful to you. If you don't have that, you've got a plus button. Okay, so if I press the plus button, I can either join a class. Now I'm in here as an adult, so I could join someone else's class as an adult, and both has access, a bit like a job share or co-teaching, or maybe a TA joining a class in which they work in. But I'm going to go and create a class, and let's call this one Year 4 at DL. I'm going to do DL Cornwall. Let's have that. So it's just a class name. I can change the name later on if I wish to. You'll see on there are other options in there, which room you're in, all of these things that might be worth it for secondaries or for FE, but we would tend to ignore that. So you can see I've got a class here set up. It's given me this graphic at the top here. If I go to customize, I can go and change things in here if I like. I mean, I'm not sure that I want headphones on there. I'm going to go for something a little bit academic success. There we go. You can put a picture on there if you like. You can change it to whatever you might want it to be. And at the top, you'll see you've got these tabs, and there's a stream tab, which is almost a way to, as it says there, announce something to your class. So I can put a message in here and it would go out. And if children have got this at home or on their tablet or whatever, they might ping up an announcement to them that something's going on. But you've also got classwork, and this is where the structure of your week by week, or month by month, or lesson by lesson, subject by subject, however you want to do it, that's where the meaty learning takes place. And then you've got people, which is just me at the moment. And to get students into your class, if you don't have this done automatically, probably the best way at primary is to go back to the stream, and you'll see you've got this class code, and that can be written on a whiteboard at school. Children log in and they add themselves to a class and put the code in. There are other ways you can do it. You can copy a link to it and send it out through, someone mentioned Class Dojo earlier, so it could be sent out through there. Various ways to do it. But if a child has, or the parent of a child has this code, they'll be able to go to Google Classroom and add themselves into your class. I'm going to come back to the classwork bit in a moment. I'm going to first just talk about some of the other bits and pieces on here. You'll see that you've got Meet over here, Google Meet. And if I click Generate Link, I can have it visible to students. I can change this later on if I like. Let's save that as it is. So you'll see you've got a button that would then join a live meeting. And obviously turning visibility to students on and off might be useful, but it's worth knowing that if you make one of those live meetings, it's only adults that can start them. And if an adult goes into one of those meetings and starts a meeting, when they leave, they can also shut the meeting down fully for everyone. So it is very much safeguarded against, you know, children being left unsupervised or anything like that. Let's look at some of the settings. There's a link to stream settings here, but you'll also find that up here. So I've got the class details, the codes, the meet link, which I turned on, and above that, yeah, let's have a look at this in the stream. So it's set so that students can post and comment. Now, for us guys in primary, we find it a little bit difficult in terms of safeguarding, in terms of not wanting a child to put a silly message on there, or even, you know, it's something that's not silly, and just starting that conversation, we want to know where the conversation is and when it's happening. So if we change this to only teachers can post or comment, you've got that sorted. And down here as well, what we've found is that it says classwork on the stream, but actually if we hide this, it can be better, because otherwise every bit of work that you put into classwork ends up coming onto the stream as well, and it creates a little bit of a soup of announcements that then becomes meaningless. Much rather have a few announcements on there that are meaningful, and the classwork's just over where it should be. So that's a couple of settings sorted out. So I'm going to save that. There's something else with Google Classroom that can be a source of frustration, and that's notifications. There's no bell up here, and I really wish there was, to give you a sort of rundown of what's going on. But if you go to the top left, you'll see here's the classes I've got access to, and at the bottom there's a settings here, and I'm sure you wouldn't have access to that many classes on your Google Class if you're in primary. If you're in secondary, you might have that plus a lot more, but you'll see on here that you receive email notifications to say that someone's commented, or that somebody has posted something, or whatever it might be, and you'll see that you've got different options for how that works. Now, we're not really interested in these so much. Late submissions of student work, we're, you know, as far as we've worked, it hasn't been, you know, here's an assignment and here's the deadline. Children are either doing them or they're not. Of course, if you work in secondary or at FE, that may be relevant to you. So you can turn some of these off, but the main thing to think about is that, you know, I've got access to all of these classes, and I may want access to someone else's class to post work there. It may be that we've got mixed classes, and, you know, I'm doing all of the English work for year 4 perhaps, so I might want access to other classes so that I can post things onto there. It's a really good way to work in remote learning circumstances. But this is about the notifications. So I perhaps don't want to get notifications from everyone. Really, I only want notifications from the children that are in my care, that I'm providing feedback to, because otherwise you just get this endless stream of notifications. So turning off other classes there can be useful. You'll also see that it does go to your email, and that can be difficult because you're kind of bombarded with these emails all the time. In your email, you can set up a folder and a bit of a rule so that it diverts these emails into a folder, and you can look at them at the time of day that's important to you. And that's what we did across our trust for people, so that they weren't bombarded by these emails, even though they've got to get them. Now, it's not perfect, and this is an aspect of Google Classroom that really I would love for them to change, but that's the way that we've found to get around it. Turn off classes that you really don't need to know about, and look to your email and create one of these rules so that they go into a folder, and then you can look in that folder and just, you know, you've got a rundown of what's going on. Right, enough talking about that. I'm very happy to take questions on it. Let's go back to this class that we've set up, and in here, let's go to classwork. How we found it quite useful for setting up structure. I talked about the week beginning structure before, and those are made with a topic. So if I go to topic, I can start to create, if I spell things correctly, week beginning, week beginning, what have we got, 10th Jan this week, and I'm going to just take that out. It would be quite good to use these abbreviations just to keep things short. Let's put another one in here. I'm going to paste that. We go, and let's put another one in here. I think we've got dates, right? And of course, January has got 31 days. So it would be like that, I believe. Now, you'll see in this structure, students will see this topic once work is added to it. So it's really great for teachers who just want to get ahead and get organized. They can put this structure in here, and it will only appear when work is actually in there. But you'll also see that you can drag around the order of these things, which is really useful for making sure that things are in the right order for you. And as time goes on, you can drag these week beginning structures, or however you've done it, to the top of your classwork, and it means it's there for children or for parents when they log in. Let's create a bit of work. I'm going to create here an assignment. You'll see on here I've got this extension called Cami. I will talk a little bit about that later because it can be really, really useful for remote learning. If I create an assignment, this is going to be maths for Monday 17th. Let's just call it that. And there's a box here for instructions. I can type as much as I like. I can type as little as I like. It's up to you, obviously, what goes in there. You'll see also while we're here that I've got this other little extension. Now, this thing is called Moat. And if you look at Moat extension, M-O-T-E, you'll be able to install that. It goes into your browser. And it means that you can record a little voice note onto your assignments. Let's have a go at doing that. I'm going to click. Hello, class. Here is your maths for Monday, the 17th. Have a go. There are some extra instructions in the video that I've put in here as well. Watch out for question 5 because that can be quite tricky. Look forward to speaking with you again. So it's placed a voice note in there, and when I post this, it will appear as a little link, and so children will be able to click on it and hear the voice note that I've recorded. I have to say, recording your voice with Google Classroom, you know, if you're doing it for giving feedback or giving a message to the whole class, it's a really useful thing to do because you know, it's so much more personal, and in terms of, you know, the impression that you give to parents about the effort you're making, it's actually huge. Give them a load of text and they just think, well, where's that come from? Or maybe nobody reads it, you know. So voice recording like that is hugely beneficial, and may well save you time once you get used to it. I'm going to add on here a file. Now, if you're using Google Drive yourself, which you will have access to, you can store all your files in there. But let's say you just want to upload something that's loose on your computer. I'm going to go to there, and you see you can drag things in if you like. I'm going to just pull in this PDF from a well-known maths resource, and that's a 2-page PDF for them to complete. Now, an important thing here, and I think if I click there, I get to view it. Yep. So here we go. There's the worksheet type material that I've downloaded and attached to this assignment. Now, if I go back here to the assignment, here's an option that you really need to look out for. If you look down here, you'll see I've got a couple of options, and the one that I really want is make a copy for each student. That's the equivalent of going to your photocopier and doing 30 copies of whatever you're doing and giving it out to them. It will put that file into each child's Google account, and whatever they do to it is done to their account. I wish that Google would make that the standard option. And if you're going to use Cami, you'll see that it does do that as the standard option, because they appreciate that that's the way that teachers may wish to work a lot of the time. It may be the case that there's a file and you just want children to view it, and I'm just putting one file on here. It can be 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 different files on here if you've got that really more involved piece of work. But you do need to look out for this. If it's a piece of work that you want children to adjust, you want them to fill it in, then make a copy for each student is the way you need to go. Now, you'll see over here you've got things like this rubric, which maybe at the top of year 5, 6 you're going to find that type of thing useful. Perhaps for some English work, works as a checklist of including things, could be useful. For the most part, people at primary don't use it. And topic here, well, you can choose to put it into one of these places at this point. I'm not going to, because I'm going to show you where it appears anyway. Let's just post that one or assign it, or in fact I'm going to go to this option to show you that I can schedule this. So if I choose schedule, I can say, all right, I want that to appear on the 17th at 8 in the morning. I think that would be reasonable. It's work for Monday the 17th, and I want it to appear then, because I don't want children to or parents to skip ahead and start doing it. So you can see it's appeared at the top here. I didn't give it a topic. I didn't give it one of these headings, but I can drag it in to where it needs to go. And that's a really useful part of Google Classroom, the way you can organize this work. You can schedule it up, ready to go, and so you can have all of your pieces of work there scheduled to appear at that sort of time. And you would see there that I created that structure quite easily and hopefully quite quickly. So that's there. I've made a class. I've put a piece of work in there. Let's just look at some of the other bits and pieces in here. I can, so you can ask the class a question. A quiz assignment means that it creates a Google form that you would fill in. They're things that you might want to use, although certainly with creating a quiz, there's a fair amount of work involved in there for you as a teacher, and there might be better ways to do quizzes with children. If I go to material, this can be quite useful. It could be a timetable for the class as to how things are going week by week. It could be remote learning information. I think that's the example we had before. You don't have to have description on there. Let me just see if I've got that remote learning document I was looking at before. Here we go. So this again is another PDF document. You can attach Word documents or PowerPoints or whatever else it might be, but do be aware that people will perhaps find viewing Word or PowerPoints harder than PDFs. PDFs are the most viewable sort of document. Again, it's there, but this isn't an assignment. This is just information for you. And I've noticed there you can add another little voice recording there through Moat, so that would be useful. If I post this, oh, I've got an error. I wonder why I've got an error. Interesting. Just a momentary glitch, hopefully. It's created the material up there, and the nice thing is that will sit at the top of my classwork, so that it's there, important information for people should they need it. So there could be, 2, 3, 4 documents up there if there are things that you want people to see. It's possible that you'd have a newsletter and you put that up there, and maybe later on get rid of it, so you can chop and change what goes up there, and it's a way for people to have key info. And that's just a PDF of information from a school about their remote learning. Okay, so we've created an assignment, we've done a voice note, we've added a PDF, which is a very simple way to send work over. If you are sending PDFs over, children, and you want children to actually annotate onto them, children can use, there's a number of PDF annotation tools on computers. And if they're using the Google Classroom app, it's actually built in, which is useful. But I will steer you towards this thing called Cami, which has quite a nice extended trial period on it if you are looking at using this. So that will be something to look into. Let me come back to my presentation, and we'll talk about some of the other tools. So away from that, which may be useful for you looking at it. Now, you'll probably be aware that you can, record video of yourself talking about something, whether that's a presentation or a picture or a document or whatever it might be. There are these amazing tools that will use your camera and allow you to record yourself and give you a link essentially that you can post into your classwork or onto your stream, giving you children click on it and then they see the video of yourself, and you may be talking about what's on your screen as well. You can see from this screen grab here, that was me talking about some work for some year 3, 4 children, and I'd appear there for a few minutes just talking about it. Now it does give a lovely bit of contact with children in a class to have recorded yourself. Do be aware, I guess, there's been a lot of publicity in recent times about secondary school teachers getting harassed through this because children have taken videos of them and made them into nasty videos to put on TikTok or something like that. Your school community. For us guys in primary, we've never felt threatened by that, and I know that recording videos of ourselves has hugely increased engagement and done a lot for the impression of the school, making a great effort for children. We can talk about live contact as well if you like. We chose to set up regular meetings with children, not necessarily live lessons, but regular meetings where we could talk about some of the work they've done, and as a sort of social contact through those lockdowns, which we're all fingers crossed, are not going to happen on any big scale. Screencastify and Loom are the big players in this area, I believe. My personal favorite would probably be Loom because of because of how much you get for it. If you're going to use Loom, you'll see in the shop there, you need to sign up for it. If you search for Loom for Education, you sign up for it, and then there's a link to verify your education account, and you have to fill in a form, and it may take a couple of days to come back to you, but once they've verified that you work in education, so you want to use your school email address, you will get unlimited storage space and unlimited size videos. It's really quite fantastic what you get as a teacher for using that. So great tools, certainly worth using if you want to create that good impression. Obviously, you're recording yourself, you can be a little bit scared to start with. You might do a recording and you do it about 20 times. It can be best if you've got stage fright to just give it a miss and come back to it later on. Don't feel everything has to be perfect. Don't feel everything has to be, really long. And once you get into it, it can be really brilliant. I talked about Moat earlier and showed that again, just using the free version of it there. It remains a really useful option, if not the most useful extra for Google Classroom. So look up Moat as an extension, just search for Moat extension. And this thing called Cami. Now, I don't have time at the moment to really show you how this thing works, but it increased engagement for us massively because children were able to click on the Cami button or open with Cami and then fill in their worksheet type assignments and click a button, and then it was submitted. So it really smooths the flow with Google Classroom. Now, if you contact Cami, and I believe you can sign up for an education trial, you may get a number of weeks of using that for free, which can be great, and then you can decide afterwards whether it's something that you want to pursue. But Cami has been a really useful tool, and certainly in the lockdown from this time last year, it was a real game changer for us in terms of how many children we had engaging. It hugely increased the engagement because children didn't have to print out work at home, or they didn't feel that they had to save things off, use a PDF editor, put it back. It smoothed the process for us. And the other thing to say is that you're really just sort of touching the tip of the iceberg in a way with Google Classroom. It's a backbone of communication and structure, but if you're really going to open up the world of online learning, edtech type learning, there are many great resources out there. There's a few there on the right. I always talk about Book Creator as being an absolutely amazing tool that can be accessed for free up to a point, but lots of schools just go with free. It will let them log in with Google logins. You can create a library of books. They can work on screen. It's very much forward thinking in terms of children working through a device. Obviously, there are lots and lots of EdTech products out there. You've got the National Academy Oak stuff, which some of it is really good and has been really useful within these remote learning situations. And of course, you can go over there, copy a link and paste it into your Google Classroom structure and get somewhere really quite fast, get coverage across the curriculum really quite fast, and so fill in some gaps quite nicely. I talked about quizzing earlier. There's a product there called Quizzes. You've got Kahoot as well, which is the original quizzing tool. You've got things like Nearpod now, which allow sort of guided lessons online. I'm not going to talk about those anymore at the moment, but there is a lot out there, and if anyone's wants more suggestions, I'm very happy to talk about those products.